Joseph Williams, also known as Joe and Hamilton, of Caliste, who resided at Lansopine St. George and in the United Kingdom, passed away on Monday 12th June 2023 at the age of 84, left to mourn his wife Sybil Williams, children Ian, Anne, Ivan and Gemma, nephews Ian Bernard, Diane and Colin, sister-in-law Clara Simmons, son-in-law Byron Campbell, grandchildren Cameron, Reese, Haley, Hatui, Fannin and Aaron. Other relatives and family including Keisha and family, Monica Mark and family, Norma McQuilkin of Caliste, Geraldine Lane, Leslie and Brenda Scott, Clovis and Martina Dubisett in the UK, Anne and Michael Entwine of Woodlands, Samuel Mapson, Lyra Fortune and Tracy, Teresa Stevenson and family, Lyris Buckmeyer, Dr. Spencer, Dr. Martin, Dr. Carrie Kennedy in the UK, Deborah St. Bernard, Renato James, Mark Roberts, Oral Murrell, Rundle Pear, Alsted Cardew, Ramon Ramdeen, Daniel Caliste, Sheena Williams, Cameron Penny, and Junior Pancho. The funeral of the late Joseph Williams, also known as Joe and Hamilton, of Caliste, who resided at Lansopine St. George and in the United Kingdom, will take place on Monday, July 3rd at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Blessed Sacrament Church according to Anglican rites, and interment will be at the Grand Anne Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Vernice Marichaud, also known as Sister of Vendome St. George, passed away on Thursday, 15th June 2023 at the age of 85. She was the mother of Hermie and Johnny in Grenada and Irva in the USA, adopted mother of Everton in Trinidad, grandmother of Houston, Ciron, Richie, Talia, Shondell, Troy, Tracy, Giovanna, Cathian and Jediah, great-grandmother of Anaya, Therese, Dory and Jediah, sister of Brenda and Mikey in Grenada, Leroy in Trinidad and Zephyrin in the USA, mother-in-law of Cephas, Alan, Joanna and Margaret, sister-in-law of Jeremiah, many nieces and nephews including Rhea, Risha, Hazelanne, Kareen Dale, Joey, Nadine, Kurt, Wendell, Gary and Randy. Other relatives and close friends including Zai, Philo, LaShawn, Gladys, Rita, Sister Mary, Lynette and family, Narissa and family, Raphael and the Andrews family of Mount Parnassus, the Batiste family of Boca, Willis and in Trinidad, Janice and the Francis family, Doreen and family, Joan and family, Dada and family, the Andrews family of Willis and in Trinidad, members of the Vendome Pentecostal Church, and neighbors and friends of Vendome and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Vernice Marichaud, also known as Sister, of Vendome St. George, will take place on Monday, July 3rd at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Beaulieu New Testament Church of God, and interment will be at the Vendome Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Gertrude Thompson, also known as Alona George of Chantymel St. Patrick, who resided at Fontenoy St. George, passed away on Tuesday, 13th June 2023 at the age of 75. She was the mother of Helen Euler George Thompson, Margaret George, Rhonda Saron George, Kenda and Kashka Thompson in Canada, and Sekou Thompson in Grenada. Stepmother of Sandra Andrews and Gillian Sylvester Vasquez in the USA, Anthony Alexander and Alison Blair in Trinidad, Junior Panchu and Cassandra Caliste in Grenada. Grandmother of Olanza, Gerard, Sasha, Otis, Caden, Kai, Henry, Luca, Kahim, Shakir and Kayla. Great-grandmother of Tishana, Zayden, Javier, Zarian, Jaden and Joshua. Sister of Arthur Francis and Bishop Dr. Gifford Clement in the USA, Godfrey Thompson, Brenda Perry and Esther McLean in Grenada, and Sandra George in Canada. Mother-in-law of Vanda Joseph and Melissa Sudd. Sister-in-law of Denise Clement, Bernard Bull Perry and Wilbert McLean. Aunt of many including Erin, Ernestine, Jimmy, Camo, Kimo, Anne and Zariah. godmother of Margaret Etienne and Michelle Samuel. Many other relatives and friends in Grenada, Trinidad, the USA, England, and Canada, including the Thompson family of Chantimel and Caliste, the George family of Chantimel and St. Mark, the Lewis, Noel, and Charles families of Chantimel, the Thomas family of Chantimel and Fontenoy, the Harry Joseph family of Concord and St. George, the Samuel family of Fontenoy and St. David, Julian Gross Lewis, Betty Regis and family, Julian Neptune, Dennis Deanne, Kathy Abraham and family, Josephine Caliste and family, Anthea Bain and family, and friends and neighbours of Fontenoy, Cherry Hill and Grand Mole. The funeral service for the late Gertrude Thompson, also known as Alona George of Chantimel St. Patrick, who resided at Fontenoy St. George, will take place on Wednesday, July 5th at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Garden of Remembrance Funeral Chapel, Cemetery Hill, St. George's, according to Pentecostal rites, and interment will be at the St. George's Centre Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Peter Densley Martin, also known as Parley of Chantimel, who resided at Plain St. Patrick, died on Monday, June 12, 2023, at the age of 80. Left to Mona his lifelong companion Maudlin, children Joni, Richard, Eamon, Ghana and Ronald Martin. Adopted son Rondell Frame. 6 grandchildren including Risa, Morris and Malcolm. 2 sisters. Many nieces and nephews including Tony Nicholas, Joseph Belfon and family, Eulin Pascal and family, and Agnes Pascal and family. Caregivers Hazel and Thomas and Bernadine Mark. Other relatives and friends including Labby, Frame, Don, Teresa, Ching, Tonya, Bill Phillip, Joycelyn Rayburn, Alex and Ronald Phillip, Arthur Francis, Sherma, Donald, Lawrence and Margaret Frame, Keith Belfon and family, the Nicholas family of Chantimel, the Martin family of Darbo, and neighbours and friends of Chantimel, Plains and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Peter Densley Martin, also known as Parley, of Chantimel, who resided at Plains St. Patrick, will take place on Wednesday, July 5th at 2 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the St. Patrick's RC Church, Sataz, and entombment will be at the Marley Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Joseph Lewis, also known as Choiceman, of Florida St. John, who resided at Coast Guard St. Mark, passed away on Saturday 10th June 2023 at the age of 83. He was the life companion of Eunice Frederick, father of Nurse Julia Julian Bartholomew, Nurse Elutha Alexis, Catherine Julian Alexis, and Desmond Frederick in the USA, stepfather of Davis, Stephen, Arthur, Terry, and Glenna Frederick, grandfather of Davona King, Eluvia, Joshua and Ethan Bartholomew, Cyrus Frederick, Kevin and Kevon, great-grandfather of Riley and Zoe Bartholomew and Thiago King, brother of Christine John and Aline Lewis in the USA, father-in-law of Desmond Alexis, Joseph Bartholomew and Sherry Frederick, uncle of many including Judy Lewis, Dolores Modeste, Gemma and Debbie, Rodney, Andy, Troy and Larry Lewis and Sam John. Many other relatives and friends including Let Fraser, Merle, Mike, the Lewis family of Warve and Ladigue, the Welsh family, and friends and neighbours of Coast Guard and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Joseph Lewis, also known as Choiceman, of Florida St. John, who resided at Coast Guard St. Mark, will take place on Wednesday, July 5th at 2 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the St. Mark the Evangelist Catholic Church, Victoria, and interment will be at the Coast Guard Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Carol Norma John of Lower Capital, Birchgrove, St. Andrew, passed away on Sunday, 18th June 2023, at the age of 43. She was the daughter of Alithia Rogers, wife of Albert John, mother of Kadeen, Aaliyah, Keziah, and Katie John, sister of Karen Henry, Ian Phillip, Chrisma Phillip, Kenny Phillip, Joel Phillip, Dwight Phillip, Shabatha Lalji, Axel Phillip, and Alicia Phillip, aunt of 18, close friend of Nixon Fletcher. Other family and friends including the Foray, John, Charles and Philip families, and friends at the Pentecostal and Adventist churches Birchgrove and the Birchgrove community, and relatives residing abroad, especially Uncle Roy and Auntie Valerie. The funeral of the late Carol Norma John of Lower Capital Birchgrove St. Andrew will take place on Thursday, July 6th at 2 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Birchgrove New Testament Church, and interment will be at the St. Rose Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Walter Anthony McIntyre, also known as Carlisle, Manitou and Spice, of Grandon St. George, passed away on Friday 2nd June 2023 at the age of 70. He was the father of Dr. Elquimedo Oscar Aline and Calvin and Donica McIntyre in the USA, stepfather of Ruthie, Candy, Sasha and Chaka in the USA, grandfather of Carol, Cameron, Zuri and Zakai McIntyre, step-grandfather of Unique, Jacinda, Leilani, Kalyani, Saranhi, Zaire and Kirani, great-grandfather of Asaya, brother of Emerson, Richard, Paul and Perron McIntyre, Paula St. Louis and Pat Donna Campbell in Grenada, David, Mark, Zoe, Rory and Elroy Charles in the UK, nephew of Carmen McIntyre, Lynette Park, Cynthia and Ralph Williams, brother-in-law of Anastasia McIntyre, Pat Bowman, also known as Mrs. Dr. Sabi, Pastor Elisha St. Louis and Dr. Michael Campbell, father-in-law of Adriana and Leanne, uncle of many including Evelyn, Abigail, Elizabeth, Brittany, Oprah, Brian, Jaron, Jamie, Jamil, Remy and Zachary, caregiver and special friend Pauline Newton, godfather of Junior, Tamika, Charmaine and Adrian. Many relatives and friends including David, Denois and Jesse McIntyre, and Peters, Peter Bernard, Shabba in Trinidad, Ashley St. Bernard and family, Elvin Wells and family, Margaret Robinson and family, Randy Newton, the McIntyre, Coutain, Latouche, Andrews, Dubiset, Depradine, Joseph and Williams families in Grenada, Trinidad and the USA, the Charles, John and Francis families of Plaisance, Walker, Trinidad, Canada, the USA and the United Kingdom, the Tropman family in the USA, the Link family of Lamode, and friends and neighbors of Café Beau Hill and Jean Anglais. The funeral service for the late Walter Anthony McIntyre, also known as Carlisle, Manitou and Spice, of Grandon St. George, will take place on Thursday, July 6th at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Garden of Remembrance Funeral Chapel, Cemetery Hill, St. George's, followed by private cremation. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Paul Emile Jules of Leicester, Carriacou, who resided at Mount Craven St. Patrick, a well-known fisherman, passed away on Monday 19th June 2023 at the age of 70. He was the father of Ronnie, Raquel, Rolanda, Ranel and Rashon, grandfather of Raymond, Rinaldo, Diamond, Maya, Rihanna, Giovanni, Jamari and Neftali, father-in-law of 2, brother of Markavia Alexander, Juliet Joseph, and Altina and Teresa Jules, uncle of many. Many cousins, other relatives and close friends including Pastor Joshua McKee, Niles George and Dexter Charles, the Jules family of Leicester and St. Patrick, the Charles family of Rosehill, Riversally and Soubise, and the Joseph, Alexander and Paulson families of Carriacou and St. Patrick, the fishermen of Leicester, Sauters and Isle-Laron, and friends and neighbours of Carriacou, Mount Craven and surrounding areas. The funeral service for the late Paul Emile Jules of Leicester, Carriacou, who resided at Mount Craven St. Patrick, will take place on Thursday, July 6th at 12 noon. Funeral service will be held at the Riversally Pentecostal Church, and interment will be at the Riversally Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Mary Monica Williams of Tempe St. George passed away on Saturday 27th May 2023 in Trinidad at the age of 53. She was the wife of Shane Williams, daughter of Alan Simon, mother of Kareem, Shay, Chantel, Shakim and Zion, sister of Anne-Marie, Erlene, Irma, Shirley-Ann, Beverly, Valerie, Derek, Robert and Junior, aunt of many, cousin of many. Many other relatives and close friends, including Rhonda Barber and family of St. Vincent, the general manager and staff of Nawassa, the pastor and members of the New Life Fellowship Church, Victory World Impact Ministries in Canada, the Garden of Prayer for All Nations Deliverance Center in Point Fort in Trinidad, members of the Joshua Generation Ministry, New Birth Prayer and Deliverance Sanctuary, the Church of God of Prophecy, Faith Deliverance Tabernacle, Eternal Love Ministry, the Lucas Street New Testament Church, Harvest Time Assembly Montmoritz, the Garden of Prayer, and friends and neighbors of Tempe and surrounding areas, and in the USA, Canada, England, and Trinidad. The funeral of the late Mary Monica Williams of Tempe St. George will take place on Friday, July 7th at 11:30 a.m. Funeral service will be held at the Gateway Assembly, Caliste, and interment will be at the Wilberforce Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. Monica Bernadette Samuel Alexis, also known as Monix or Young Girl, of La Femme, who resided at Westerhall St. David and in Trinidad, transformed this life peacefully on Friday, June 16, 2023, at the age of 81. She was the godmother of Grace Lewis, sister of Jean Isaac of Beaton and Dennis Samuel, niece of Sonny Francis of Westerhall, aunt of many including Joseph and Leslie Samuel, Christine Hector and Wendy Bloomfield in the USA, grand and great aunt of many including David Burrow, John T. Jordan Josiah Robinson of Lansopine, who resided at Caliste St. George, passed away on Saturday 17th June 2023 at the age of 24. The funeral arrangements for the late John T. Jordan Josiah Robinson of Lansopine, who resided at Caliste St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. Franklin Christopher Humphrey, also known as Coy, of Church Street, Hillsborough, Carriacou, passed away on Friday 23rd June 2023 at the age of 44. The funeral arrangements for the late Franklin Christopher Humphrey, also known as Coy, of Church Street, Hillsborough, Carriacou, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. Clint Thornhill, also known as Police, of Constantine St. George, passed away on Tuesday, 27th June 2023, at the age of 27. The funeral arrangements for the late Clint Thornhill, also known as Police, of Constantine St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Terry Foray, also known as Puta, of St. David Street, Victoria St. Mark, passed away on Saturday, 17th June 2023, at the age of 57. The funeral arrangements for the late Terry Foray, also known as Puta, of St. David Street, Victoria St. Mark, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Hensley Miles, also known as Yellow, of Pedmotar St. David, passed away on Wednesday, 21st June 2023, at the age of 57. The funeral arrangements for the late Hensley Miles, also known as Yellow, of Pedmotar St. David, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Marita Baptiste Batson, also known as Maritz and Granny, of Laborie, who resided at Spring St. George, passed away on Monday, 26th June 2023, at the age of 90. The funeral arrangements for the late Marita Baptiste Batson, also known as Maritz and Granny, of Laborie, who resided at Spring St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Veronica Noel, also known as Vitalis Hagley, of Montu St. George, passed away on Tuesday, 13th June 2023, at the age of 99. The funeral arrangements for the late Veronica Noel, also known as Vitalis Hagley, of Montu St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Royston Godfrey Jelliso, also known as Red George, of Mardi Gras St. David, died on Thursday, 22nd June 2023, at the age of 56. The funeral arrangements for the late Royston Godfrey Jelliso, also known as Red George, of Mardi Gras St. David, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Catherine Campbell, also known as Catherine Drayton of River Road, who resided at Spring St. George, passed away on Monday, 26th June 2023, at the age of 84. The funeral arrangements for the late Catherine Campbell, also known as Catherine Drayton of River Road, who resided at Spring St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Rickelson Toussaint, also known as Rick Boy and Baby Boy, of River Sally St. Patrick, passed away on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, at the age of 20. The funeral arrangements for the late Rickelson Toussaint, also known as Rick Boy and Baby Boy, of River Sally St. Patrick, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Bernard Buckmeyer, also known as Strongman, of Pedmotar St. David, who resided at Monjaloo St. George, passed away on Friday, 23rd June 2023, at the age of 67. The funeral arrangements for the late Bernard Buckmeyer, also known as Strongman, of Pedmotar St. David, who resided at Monjaloo St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Catherine Lucille Frederick of Bellevue St. David, who resided in Canada, passed away on Saturday, 17th June 2023, at the age of 83. The funeral arrangements for the late Catherine Lucille Frederick of Bellevue St. David, who resided in Canada, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Pearl Agnes Bernard, née Fletcher, also known as Mother, of Munro Street, Victoria St. Mark, who resided at Snell Hall and Lower Morley St. Patrick and in Ontario, Canada, passed away on Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, at the age of 100. The funeral arrangements for the late Pearl Agnes Bernard née Fletcher, also known as Mother, of Munro Street, Victoria, St. Mark, who resided at Snell Hall and Lower Morley, St. Patrick, and in Ontario, Canada, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. WRC Leslie and Jacinta Braveboy of Lauriston, Carriacou, passed away on Wednesday, 21st June 2023, at the age of 53. The funeral arrangements for the late WRC Leslie and Jacinta Braveboy of Lauriston, Carriacou, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Joy Veronica Ned of Grosse Pointe, St. Mark, passed away on Friday, 16th June 2023, at the age of 70. The funeral arrangements for the late Joy Veronica Ned of Grosse Pointe, St. Mark, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Garvin Sean McGilvery of Beauséjour, St. George, died on Wednesday, June 14th, 2023, at the age of 39. The funeral arrangements for the late Garvin Sean McGilvery of Beauséjour, St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Aaron John, also known as AJ, Aquila, and Baker, of Mondelez, St. George, died on Sunday, 11th June 2023, at the age of 73. The funeral arrangements for the late Aaron John, also known as AJ, Aquila, and Baker, of Mondelez, St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Hubert Ewart Braffett, also known as Bert, Campaign, and Braff, of Montgelou, who resided at Woburn, St. George, passed away on Tuesday, 13th June 2023, at the age of 73. The funeral arrangements for the late Hubert Ewart Braffett, also known as Bert, Campaign, and Braff, of Montgelou, who resided at Woburn, St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Joseph Hagley, also known as Bonnie, of Bellevue, St. David, who resided in the USA, passed away on Thursday, 15th June 2023, at the age of 62. The funeral arrangements for the late Joseph Hagley, also known as Bonnie, of Bellevue, St. David, who resided in the USA, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Nicola Carrot George of Rosehill, St. Patrick, passed away on Thursday, 8th June 2023, at the age of 39. The funeral arrangements for the late Nicola Carrot George of Rosehill, St. Patrick, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Catty St. John Worm of Grand Anse, St. George, who resided in New York, USA, passed away on Thursday, 17th February 2022 in New York, at the age of 50. A funeral service was held on Saturday, 26th February 2022 in Brooklyn, New York. The funeral arrangements for the service to be held in Grenada will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Augustus David King, also known as Zab, Beggs, and Augustus, of Bylands, who resided at Soubise St. Andrew, passed away on Saturday, 3rd June 2023, at the age of 70. The funeral arrangements for the late Augustus David King, also known as Zab, Beggs, and Augustus, of Bylands, who resided at Soubise St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Imelda Lena Batiste, also known as Mama, of Chantimel St. Patrick, who resided in London, England, peacefully passed away on Monday, May 1st, 2023 in London, at the age of 68. The funeral arrangements for the late Imelda Lena Batiste, also known as Mama, of Chantimel St. Patrick, who resided in London, England, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home.
The management and staff of MTV extend deepest condolences to those of you whose loved ones have passed on. Thank you for watching.
Rest it in the Lord Jesus Christ. Give him that sorrow, that pain. I know it's painful to see that our loved one go. But Jesus Christ in Isaiah chapter 5 told us that he have taken all of that for us. He was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes you would be healed from that loss, brothers and sisters. You would be healed. You would soon overcome. You will still be strengthened. Look at the Lord Jesus Christ. Was bruised, beaten, spit upon, died upon a cross. His mother was there watching that child. Took so much of mankind for nothing that he have done. Yet for her, he took it all upon himself. So today, me and you, when we see what happened to our life, we can look on the cross and know there is a better future for us. It's the same thing here. I would even say to you, sometimes when some loved one die, according to the condition of that, brothers and sisters, we should more rejoice than being sorrowful. Because God have known the best of that for us. All I want to say here to you today, that trust in God, despite whatsoever it is, get that inner faith, that inner peace. He said, cast all the cares upon him. He said, my yoke is easy and my burden is... Just cast it upon him, brother. I know it might be difficult for you to think about how could you do it. Just give it a try. Just a step of faith. Just say, Lord, have your way in me. Lord, keep me through these trial times. And he will do it. He will keep you. When you read through the Psalms 23, the Lord is our shepherd. We shall not want. You read through that Psalms and you recognize that David himself was going through a testing time. And he recognized, even as he said, yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You may be walking through the valley of the shadow of death now, but you don't have to fear that evil, brothers and sisters. Because the Lord, the rod and the staff will comfort you. He will take you through that. He will carry you through. God carried the children of Israel through. He can carry you through today. Just give him your all. Give him that trust. You know why sometimes we go through many grief and pain and sorrow for weeks and for days. Sometimes we even take some loved ones with them. Because why? Our heart and our faith is not with the Lord. But I'm telling you today, just trust in the Lord. Just trust in the Lord and he will see you through. Just trust in the Lord and he will make that way for you. Stretch your arm right now and I will pray with you. Father in heaven, I thank you for the God that who you are. You don't think it as men, oh God, Father Lord. Lord, sometimes when you're moaning and groaning, you are still walking. And Father, now you are walking on these lives, oh God, Father. Those who have grieved and have lost ones, oh God, and to them, oh God, all is lost. Father, I know you can restore back unto them presently now. That faith, oh God, Father, that joy. Lord, even David has spoken about it, oh God, in Psalms 51. Oh, restore unto me the joy. Oh God, Lord, and I pray tonight, I pray now, oh God, Father, Lord, that you will restore back unto them, oh God, Lord, that they, oh God, Father, Lord, would put their trust in you. Lord, yet, oh God, Father, Lord, the memory, the evil forces, oh God, the hell, death, and all his guilt and his foes, oh God, Father, Lord, even, oh God, the neighbors and friends and relatives may come to remind them of the past, oh God, to haunt their life. But God, I pray now, oh God, that you will take it away, oh God, Father, Lord, that the memory that you will give them is one to last, oh God, Father, of eternity, oh God, looking, oh God, Father, Lord, that they will meet that loved one at someday, oh God, and they would be together again in joy and happiness, oh God, Father Lord. Never to depart, oh God, Father Lord. I pray now that you touch them. Oh Father in heaven, oh God, Lord. You are all hearing God. And Father, I know you will not fail me. Bless them tonight, oh God, Father. Bless them today, oh God. Wheresoever they are, oh God, whosoever they are. Reach out to them, oh God, Lord, and rest your nail-scar hand upon them and bring them into that fold that they would understand that, as you said, oh God, as you rise, they would rise on the last day. In Jesus' name. Amen and amen. God bless you. I hope what I have shared with you will bring some closure to your pain, your grief, and your sorrow. and God will take you on to a brighter tomorrow. God bless you.